We're going to go ahead and get started with our next panel. I'm Gabrielle Serra with the Public Health Institute. This has definitely been a good morning so far, lots of nuts and bolts, basics about the program, and I'm really pleased to be introducing this next panel with practitioners from across the country and really looking into a window of promising signs and honing in on key factors that promote successful and effective SNAP incentive programs. So you all have everyone's full bios in your packets, so I'm just going to provide a brief introduction and then we can go ahead and get into it here. First, we have Kaylee Summers. Kaylee is the Nutrition and Market Access Coordinator for Adelante Mujeres. She can probably pronounce that better than I can, which provides holistic education and empowerment opportunities for low-income Latina women and their families. She's going to be focusing today on the potential and impacts of combining nutrition education with SNAP incentive programs. Next, we have Dr. Oren Hesterman. Oren is the president and CEO of the Fair Food Network, the national nonprofit headquartered in Michigan, which we've been hearing about today, and their signature program, Double Up Food Bucks. Oren's going to share his wide-ranging perspective, but also honing in on the impacts of statewide program scale and geographic scope. We also have Carrie Draper, who is the Policy and Community Outreach Director for the Center for Research in Nutrition and Health Disparities at the University of South Carolina. Carrie will share her expertise in leveraging partnerships, translating research to practice, and community engagement in SNAP incentive programs. And finally, we have two panelists from the Washington State Farmers Market Association. We have Karen Kinney, the Executive Director, and Sophie Kaufman, the Partnership Coordinator. Together, they will share their perspective and expertise in building a SNAP incentive program in Washington farmers markets and the role of public-private partnerships. So with that, we look forward to the discussion, and we'll invite Kaylee on up. Thank you.
Well, I just wanted to say thank you for having me here today. It's a real honor to talk about our programs at Adelante Mujeres and to be in a room full of amazing people doing amazing things. So I just wanted to give you a little more context about our organization and how we function. We're a little bit different than a normal farmers market or farmers market network. We work within a larger organization. So I was going to tell you a little bit about that, and then I'll speak about the types of nutrition education and incentives that we offer and what we've seen as the most successful strategies to influence the behavior changes in our participants. So I'll go ahead and begin with a little bit of an explanation about Adelante Mujeres. We are a nonprofit organization located in Forest Grove, Oregon, which is about 30 miles west of Portland. And Adelante means rise up, flourish, move forward, and mujeres is women. So as Gabby had mentioned, our mission is the holistic education and empowerment of low-income Latina women and their families. And I'm bringing up here that in 2002, when we started the organization, we were primarily focused on educational programs. So we have an adult ed program, an early childhood education program, and an Adelante Chicas program, which is a youth development program. And then hearing from the needs of our participants, we continued to broaden our scope, and now we offer small business development programs, including a sustainable agricultural program that provides technical assistance to local area Latino farmers. We have a farmers market, which I'll talk about more today, a distribution program for our farmers, CSA program, Empresas program, which is a small business coaching program, Sabor Color, which is a commercial kitchen project for small businesses starting out with artisan food products and catering. So we do much more. Someone asked me today if the incentive program was our most major program, but we cover a lot more things than that. And that's part of how we find our nutrition education and incentives work very well, because those programs are very integrated, and there's a lot of cross-pollination between them. So, let's see, here we go. In our adult ed and early childhood education program, we integrate the nutrition programming into their class schedule. So while we're working on math skills and reading skills, they are also learning about cooking nutritious meals, how to grow their own fruits and veggies, how to get active, and skills for healthy communication and building confidence. In these programs, we were working at building a culture of eating whole foods, knowing where the foods come from, buying locally, supporting Latino farmers, as well as staying active and well-balanced. And I think the importance on that we're not just talking about healthy eating, but they're getting it from all angles. And so we're also incentivizing healthy eating habits, connecting what they're learning in the nutrition programs with those incentives, as opposed to, if they get a good test score on their math, that's why they get an incentive, which we tried, and the redemption rates were lower for connecting it with non-related programming to nutrition. We're also using these as not as a punishment, but saying that fruits and vegetables are given as a reward. And the farmers market manager and the market outreach coordinator regularly come into the classroom with our participants so that the moms and kids have a personal connection at the farmers market and feel welcome and comfortable being there. And I think on past speakers really talked about that face-to-face personal connection. Our outreach coordinator or outreach assistant is actually an alum of this program. She was a parent or a mom in the adult education program, so she can really speak from experience. And as the farmers market manager, I've also been on food stamps. I've used our match program before, and so we both really come from a place of speaking about how to budget and how to use those incentives wisely, and the appreciation for those programs too. We've also held our English class at the market so that students are learning vocabulary while they're talking about eating healthy foods and seasonal foods. Part of the success, I think, comes from that shifting, the culture shift of really investing in good foods, right? Real foods, and the consistent messaging among all of the staff in all of those programs. And these are just some of the pictures of the types of nutrition programming that we do within there. We also, through our Adelante Chicas program, we offer nutrition programming as well. So in our area, about 24% of adults in our county are obese, and nearly 40% are overweight in Washington County, which is the highest overweight rate in the area, in a tri-county area. So we understand that habits are formed at an early age, and that we're integrating those nutrition education incentives in the Chicas program and the Market Sprouts program at the Forest Grove Farmers Market, and I'll talk a little bit about that in just a minute. We offer a soccer academy with our Chicas program and our Healthy Lifestyle Summer Camp, along with periodic nutrition activities throughout the school year. I wanted to mention, as far as redemption rates go and impact, with our Chicas program, we don't see those students on a regular basis, as opposed to our adult ed students we see Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. So we have a more consistent relationship with those. Although we have seen that as the market manager and the outreach coordinator go into Chicas workshops and summer camps and go to parent meetings, we're seeing a higher redemption rate and a connection with the farmers market during those activities. And we also give out a little bit lower of an incentive, $5 incentive to the Chicas in that program, as opposed to like a $10 $10 incentive to our adult ed participants. With the Market Sprouts Kids Club, we offer 13 weeks of activities aimed at kids 4 through 12 years old to try new fruits and vegetables and learn more about where they come from. The booth is located next to our information booth, where we process and match all federal benefits, SNAP, WIC, FMDP, the senior coupons. And so this rewards parents and families to keep coming back, and families have reported that this is something that draws them to the market each week, having the kids club there. We also provide fruit and veggie token incentives to the kids at the Market Sprouts Kids Club who come consistently and participate in those activities. All right, so the Forest Grove Farmers Market is where it all comes together. However, it's not just the point of sale. So we have the Market Sprouts Kids Club, we have cooking demonstrations, community walks and bike rides that start and end at the market. We have master gardeners and food preserver volunteers from Extension Services that are there at the farmers market. And as Drew mentioned earlier about being a farmer and being a mentor to customers, we really empower our farmers in our sustainable agricultural program and our food artisans to be the teachers that inspire those customers on how to cook and utilize those products. And so as far as takeaways, because I have 1 minute here, things that I feel that have really made our program successful is that consistent messaging to participants and integration of messaging throughout all of our programs. I also think that the holistic nutrition education, getting it from all angles, and really reinforces the importance of that. And if participants are consistently reminded of health in different ways, we have found that that's more impactful on their behavior changes. The amount of incentives also has an impact. Activities and additional incentives at the farmers market, also a plus, music, walks, kids' activities. But really, the top thing that I really want to emphasize here is that personal connection with the market staff and the community in really making participants feel welcome, feel like this is a place that they can come to and this is their home, this is their community. And that knowing that their friends, their families, their teachers, other people that are really supporting them are going to be at the market. So thank you so much.
Good afternoon. Thank you for those who organized this day. It is really fabulous to have a chance for all of us working on these kinds of incentive programs to get together and learn from each other and inform each other about our work. So I was asked to say a little bit about promising signs and what's making the difference. And I could talk about many things, but I'm going to talk about 3 aspects of Double Up Food Bucks that I think are making a difference for our work in Michigan. One is a uniform approach across a significant geography. The second is sophisticated communications, and the third is partnerships. So in terms of the uniform approach, Double Up Food Bucks is an incentive program that's centrally designed and coordinated, but locally implemented. When I say centrally designed and coordinated, everything from the record keeping to outreach documents, our communications campaign, unlike some of the programs we've heard about today, every market involved in Double Up Food Bucks has an identical season, starts the same date, ends the same date. It's got the same incentive, dollar for dollar, up to $20 per market day. You can earn your Double Up Food Bucks in Detroit and spend them in Grand Rapids or Traverse City or the other way around. So very centralized and coordinated in terms of the program, but because it is implemented locally, the markets of all sizes and types can easily adopt the program at a relatively low cost and low administrative burden. So it takes some of the burden off of smaller markets where they don't have to organize the program, they don't have to put it in place. We help them put it in place, and they get to focus. The markets and market managers get to focus on what they do best, which is connecting to their unique vendors, their unique community. And despite the diversity of sites offering Double Up food bucks, customer and vendor feedback is uniformly strong and positive, and redemption rates have increased year by year and are now, by 2013, we're up to 93% at the farmers markets. Communications. The uniform approach statewide allows us to have a very sophisticated communications approach, which we can also do statewide. We deploy a range of outreach tools and tactics with a common feel and common message. Between our evaluation showed, for example, between October 1st, 2012 and September 30th, 2013, our social marketing campaign reached more than 1 million SNAP recipients and eligibles. Our communications is grounded in the theory that there's no single form of communications. That's the magic bullet. It's about actually, what did somebody say the other day? It's more like magic buckshot, that you actually have to get many, many impressions in many different ways. And we do that in many different manners. We have direct flyers like the one you see here, very, very colorful. We redesigned them this year, and my staff laughs whenever I say they look very festive, because I think they do. And it's interesting how this one flyer says everything I'm going to say today. It's uniform approach. You can see the dates start and finish the same. It's about communications, and it's about partnerships, which I'll mention in a minute. So we do these, make these outreach tools available all over the state to many kinds of venues, food banks, churches, associations that are in connection with SNAP beneficiaries and eligibles. We also do direct mail. And that is maybe something unique that we do. We work with our Department of Human Services. We certainly don't have access to the SNAP mailing list. That would not be legal. But what we do is work with them, put together the mailers. And, for example, last year there were over 200,000 direct mail pieces that went right to the households of SNAP beneficiaries that were in zip codes that were close to the farmers markets. We give them a 800 number to call in our office with any questions, and we know that the phone rings off the hook when those hit the mail. And we have lots of volunteers helping to answer questions that come. We use paid and earned media statewide, including billboards, bus signs. We produce and pay for radio spots and print ads, and many of our local partners are engaged. And we provide them with press release templates. But the message here is because we have a uniform approach statewide, we can do uniform communications, and everybody working on the program stays with the same message, which enables us to get many more customers, I believe, understanding the program. We also do digital, Facebook and Google ads. We've experimented with those because they're not very expensive, and you can get a lot of impressions doing that. And we've produced some videos, including a how-to video that are used at the markets. So that was the second, communications. The third is partnerships. And I believe that Double Up Food Bucks is really grounded, its success is grounded in the partnerships we have statewide. For example, a key communications partner is the Michigan Fitness Foundation, which is the SNAP Ed agency in the state, and we work very closely with them. We have for several years now on information and communications. This graph shows the diverse partner organizations we engage with to help distribute outreach materials. And each of these also engage with other partners. So it really becomes an effort across the state in Double Up Food Bucks. Some of the key statewide relationships that I think make this program work well are with the Michigan Farmers Market Association. You know, you heard from Drew already. That's a very strong partnership, and I don't think either organization would be as strong in what we're doing without this partnership. The Michigan Department of Human Services, our state SNAP agency, is very much behind this. A little story. So when our governor of Michigan, about a year and a half ago, put together his dashboard for community wellness, how is he going to look at, now he's an accountant. He would tell you he's a nerd. That's some of his ads, right? But he is an accountant, and he really likes numbers. So when he started putting together a dashboard that you can look at for how to measure community wellness in the state of Michigan, one of the indicators is SNAP sales at farmers markets. So that was kind of informed by our work, for sure, but it means that across the state agencies, when Double Up Food Bucks and SNAP sales increase at farmers markets, his administration is succeeding. And that's the kind of win-win I think all of us need to look for. So that's a great partnership for us. The Food Bank Council of Michigan is a key partner in terms of getting the word out. And you're going to hear in a little while this afternoon from Aude Arabo, the executive director of AFPD, which is the trade association for independent grocers in the state of Michigan. And the partnership that we've developed with AFPD is absolutely crucial to, okay, I'm euphemistically saying this, to seamlessly take Double Up Food Bucks from farmers markets to groceries. Now, Rachel's laughing in the back because she knows and I know it's not seamless, but we're doing our best with that. Aude asked me a little while ago this morning, so Orrin, what percentage of produce is actually sold at farmers markets, of all produce that's sold? Now, Lorelei, you might know that, but I don't. What I do know is the percentage of all grocery expenditures happening at farmers markets. Now, it varies by state, but the average is somewhat less than 1/10% of all sales. Now, Aude said, you better say that, Orrin, because if I say it as a guy from the grocery industry, they'll throw tomatoes at me. Well, I'm glad to say they don't have tomatoes on the tables, Aude. So you could have said it. But I think it brings up the point. While farmers market work is incredibly important, and we will stay with it because we know that, if we are going to expand the reach of incentives, it is absolutely imperative that we expand it into the grocery industry where most people buy most of their groceries most of the time. And that's why I believe our partnership with AFPD is so critical. So we know that healthy food incentives have benefits that ripple out, and to farmers, to local economies, and the potential for greater community health. 93% of participating SNAP users at farmers markets in our evaluation report eating more fruits and vegetables, including different varieties. Farmers profit with the boost to local economies. 90% of our participating farmers report selling more fruits and vegetables. 85% of them say they're making more money. These are all very important ripple benefits from the incentives and from SNAP sales at farmers markets. The graph I'm showing you here shows the increase in combined SNAP and Double Up sales at participating farmers markets in Michigan since Double Up Food Bucks began. And I think what's important to realize is the numbers here are only the markets participating in Double Up Food Bucks. There are some markets that are participating with SNAP that aren't doing Double Up Food Bucks. So if you look at the actual number of SNAP sales at farmers markets in Michigan, it's somewhat higher than this. But it's something that we believe we're being successful at in Michigan. We are going to keep going. We know we have commitments of funding to keep this going for another several years, and we see it as part of the Michigan food landscape for years to come. So again, I hope that I've shared with you that some of our success factors in Michigan are uniformity across geography, robust and sophisticated communications, and you see I'll promote it wherever I can. Like I'll put the little signs up just like the farmers do. We think it's a great program. And strong partnerships. We're going to hear about some of those partnerships. We heard about them earlier. We'll hear about some more of them this afternoon with Aude and with Mike Basher from Uplift Solutions. But I'm very happy again to have the opportunity to visit with you this afternoon about these components that we believe are bringing success to the program.
Good afternoon. Thank you all for having me here today. So I must admit that I had a bit of a chuckle when I looked at the program and saw that I was in this panel and not the next one about challenges, because this has been a very challenging year for us. But the reason I am in this one is because in South Carolina, we actually, last legislative session, so a year ago this month, or next month, June, we're able to get a budget proviso passed. So it's written into law that we have a SNAP Healthy Incentives Program in South Carolina. So I wanted to give you all kind of the backstory of how this proviso came to be, and then talk about this past year really working with the Department of Social Services to figure out an implementation plan for this money. So the Right Choice Fresh Start Farmers Market started in 2011. It was a community-based farmers market that was university community collaboration established at the site of a federally qualified health center. I believe the first farmers market to be at a federally qualified health center in the U.S. And so through this partnership in the second season, they implemented a incentives program where people could get $5 in matching funds when they used WIC, Senior Farmers Market vouchers, as well as SNAP. And it did show that among patients with diabetes, that it did increase significantly their consumption of fruit and vegetable intake. And that paper is in the reading list. And then Darcy Friedman, who was the head of this study, who has since moved to Case Western, just this week another study came out showing that doing this program also significantly increased the food assistance dollars coming into the farmers market. So she took this information to our #1 advocacy organization in South Carolina Appleseed Legal Justice Center, and Sue Berkowitz, the director, did her thing in the South Carolina legislature and lobbied that $1.892 million in bonus funds that we got from the feds because we had a lot of errors in our SNAP processing and ended up improving. So we got bonus money for that. Lobbied the legislature to get them to mandate that this funding go towards the creation of a SNAP Double Bucks program, which was unprecedented, at least in South Carolina, because typically this bonus money just goes into the general pot of funding. And so using that, the research from Darcy, as well as messaging what this could do for our small-scale farmers, she was successful in making this happen. So the past about 8 months, we at the university have convened stakeholders and have really tried to work with the Department of Social Services, who was mandated to do this, but really does not have expertise in doing this type of programming, to figure out how to make this happen. So to tell you a little bit about where we were 8 months ago, was me on the phone with the state director of DSS, trying to get a feel for how they were thinking they were going to set up this program, and her saying that they were planning to equally divide the $1.892 million among all SNAP recipients in South Carolina, which is 800,000 people, and mail everybody a coupon for $2.16. So I just want to give you a little bit of an idea of where we were 8 months ago and where we have come since then. So as you can see, the proviso does leave it open for it to be to do this type of programming at grocery stores or farmers markets, but I think for a lot of the reasons that Rachel and others have talked about, because grocery stores are such a different beast, and because we had some success within farmers markets already, we decided, the stakeholder group, to push to do this at least initially in farmers markets. We also used some of our data from a big child hunger study that we have been conducting for 2.5 years, that showed that among the SNAP recipients that we spoke with, 97% of SNAP recipients did want to be able to use SNAP at farmers markets. And then I just wanted to give you all an idea of some of the partners that we have in South Carolina who are really committed to this. So from the ARP to the YMCAs to Eat Smart Move More, Farmers Market Association. And so what we proposed that DSS do was really to do a bit of a pilot in the first season to work out the kinks and all of that, to have the coupons actually at farmers market locations, since the proviso does specify that SNAP recipients have to use some of their own SNAP dollars beforehand. So if you gave coupons at another location, then that's extra burden on the farmers markets potentially to be the ones monitoring, well, did everybody who was using the coupon, did they actually use some of their own SNAP money? And so, to make a long story short, where we are now is that this summer, starting next month, there will be a pilot season with 6 farmers markets, and one of those farmers market sites also has a mobile farmers market attached to it, so they'll be using this. And what will happen is that SNAP recipients, as long as they use at least $2.50 with their own SNAP money, then they'll receive $5 in the incentive funding to go towards more produce purchases. And then because it is only 6 sites, we're foregoing the farmers markets will be using the token system, but in terms of from a reimbursement standpoint, there's just a form that people will fill out with, that farmers markets will fill out with EBT numbers, signatures, and then they'll turn that into DSS to get reimbursed. So some challenges and opportunities. I'm sure these are common challenges, but a lot of our farmers markets, and I know that I'm talking about 6 farmers markets, and I know a lot of you all are doing this in over 100 farmers markets. To give you a little perspective of South Carolina, it's a very small state, and we don't even have 100 farmers markets in South Carolina right now, especially ones that accept SNAP. But even within our farmers markets, you know, a lot of them lack the capacity of even having farmers market managers, especially ones that are paid, like came up earlier. So that was the other reason why, at least for this year, we really were trying to identify farmers markets that already have that capacity that we knew could be successful pretty quickly in this. Then locations of farmers markets, we, especially in our rural communities, which is most of South Carolina, they're still very much literally divided by railroad tracks, and low-income people live on one side and high-income people live on the other. And if the farmers market is on the high-income side of the railroad tracks, then SNAP recipients do not feel at all welcome going to the farmers markets. And then just kind of a lack of information on farmers markets. We've had quite a time trying to figure out, even just kind of get a handle on where all our farmers markets are and which ones accept SNAP and which ones don't. And then, again, kind of a lack of will on behalf of some of our farmers markets, unfortunately, to accept SNAP because of the mentality that low-income people who receive SNAP shouldn't be shopping at farmers markets. And then a lack of will to also participate in the incentive program, and then a challenge in really trying to engage SNAP recipients in the implementation planning. Ideally, this pilot would have been developed by the people who were going to use it. And then some opportunities is, of course, the proviso funds, which is a challenge and an opportunity. It's incredible that we have this written into law right now, but the budget proviso is only good for a year, so we already had the challenge of the Department of Social Services trying to get rid of it this past legislative session before they even used any of the funding. So a challenge in continuing year to year to get the legislature to put the proviso in there. But I think it's also an opportunity because as we're talking about, how much incentive amount do you really need to make a difference, and especially in South Carolina where transportation is a huge barrier. Very few of our counties have any kind of public transportation system at all. So maybe, what we'll find is that we really need to be providing, $10, $15 in incentives, and having a proviso that's only good for a year means that the next year we can change that proviso. Growing amount of stakeholder support, and then also through a large study we have out of the Nutrition Center, we have community organizers hired in several communities in South Carolina, really working with community members, trying to get low-income families to the table to create food systems change in order to prevent childhood obesity. So one of the things that they'll be working on is really organizing families to use this program. So thank you.
I wanted to start by saying I'm Karen Kinney with the Washington State Farmers Market Association, and I just want to thank you for inviting us to be able to come and share our story about what we're doing in Washington State. We pay attention to so many of your organizations out in our little corner, and it's really great to be in the room with all of you and hearing what you're doing. So I'm going to start and just give a little overview and context to how our relationship work has got started, and then Sophie will give you more details. And Sophie Kaufman is our partnership coordinator at the Farmers Market Association and is coordinating some of the incentive work that we're doing, as well as some regional collaborative processes among farmers markets and their community partners. So in Washington, farmers markets have a long history of collaboration. I'm sure they do in most areas with a lot of partners in the anti-hunger and nutrition world, sustainable ag, academics, public health communities, and a lot of that has been going on for the last 14, 15 years, very informally, as needs change and arise over time. And a lot of this was catalyzed with the WIC Farmers Market Nutrition Program and threatened loss of the program back in the late 90s. And so it forced us to think creatively about how to keep it and generate enough state funding to keep it going. And then over time, we started moving into SNAP issues and working on collaboration. So when I became the executive director a couple years ago, it was only natural for me to be talking to the city of Seattle because that's where I live. We were the organization that was running 7 markets in Seattle was trying to do all sorts of crazy things with farmers markets and figure out how to make good connections with the low-income communities surrounding several of those markets. And the city of Seattle was really interested in trying to figure out how they could increase access to healthy food in all of the neighborhoods of the city, because there's huge disparities just within the city itself. And they had a very innovative city council. Their president had been working on food system issues for the last 8 years or so. They passed a food action plan for the city. The city itself had an interdepartmental team that had been meeting about food system issues. They hired a food policy advisor in 2011, and it was at the time that a grassroots group in Seattle was starting to do research on SNAP and Chase Bank, which is our administrator, and put out a report that showed the millions and millions of dollars that Chase was making on SNAP transactions. And so Chase was looking for a way to improve their image and help support the farmers market community. And so the city was interested in an incentive program, and they had the funding to do this. And so they came and were talking to us and about ways to do it, and we'd done some small incentive programs in the past. And so we had our collaborative network, and we said, yes, we'd be glad to help you and coordinate it. We have connections with all the markets, and we have connections around the state. And then tied to that, and I think is an essential part of the work that we are doing right now, and the direction that we see this work moving in Washington, was the fact that the city wanted a strong evaluation component. And so the University of Washington Center for Public Health Nutrition was brought in because they also have a history of working collaboratively in the state and working on state plans, local county plans, working with communities all over the state on food access, food system, healthy eating, active living, and all of those public policy priorities. And so we all knew each other, and it was like, okay, we've got some money, let's do something. And so Sophie's gonna go on.
Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about how roles between when you have shared leadership between a municipality and a state farmers market association, as well as our partnership with the University of Washington Center for Public Health Nutrition, which has been taking the charge on all of our evaluation for this last year and will be doing it again this year. So getting started with the City of Seattle, Karen has pretty much stated there was already mission alignment and the drive and the people and the systems set up to make this partnership happen. And there was money, which was a huge component of that too, to get this off the ground. So what the city has provided basically is a very large-scale vision. I think that they're certainly open to grocery retail, but they're starting with farmers markets. And they see sort of a long-term goal of this expanding beyond potentially the farmers market location. But what this Washington State Farmers Market Association provides is a little bit of tempering of that vision to more of a statewide approach, so not just located within the city of Seattle, and keeping it really rooted in local agriculture and supporting our local farmers and our local economy. So we've been really fortunate in that the city of Seattle, with both of our visions in mind, has provided some of the funding that's built into our program was budgeted specifically to establish relationships outside of the city of Seattle with other programs, and also to do some data collection and some data aggregation and aggregate best practices. So through the City of Seattle, that partnership, we were able to produce through our organization a toolkit of best practices this past year to disseminate to all of our membership base and farmers markets around the state that were interested in operating these types of programs. But the City of Seattle provides oversight primarily for this program, and that comes to the nitty-gritty of accounting in terms of they hold all of the contracts with all of our markets that are participating in the City of Seattle. There are 4 farmers market organizations operating a total of 16 farmers markets in the City of Seattle. So they hold all of those contracts between those 4 organizations and manage that inflow and outflow of money that we as a state association were not equipped to do. They are an incubator in a lot of ways. The regional food policy advisor that Karen was talking about, a new position that they hired just in the last couple of years, she has been able to provide all of her time towards this program in kind. Her department is set up to absorb new projects. And so we've been really fortunate that she's been able to provide that leadership role and has had support on her end to make that happen. But it really is just one person in one department who is making this all come together and pulling together other departments to make it a much stronger program. And with that in mind, we've also been able to pull in some outreach with our City of Seattle partnership. I know that it came up earlier talking about utilities. The City of Seattle has a utility discount program, and we're currently working on getting into their mailings because we don't have the capacity to do that on our end. And that specifically targets, it's a little bit of a higher threshold in terms of individual income as it would be for SNAP beneficiaries, but it's targeted outreach that we couldn't do on our own. And through all of these relationship building and this planning, there's always a building towards a more sustainable future. And one of the things that the City of Seattle has been able to do as well is with our total budget in mind, setting aside funds specifically to address the fact that this won't necessarily always exist in Seattle, that it won't necessarily always be at farmers markets alone, and bringing together partners and additional stakeholders, getting everyone at the table and having the conversations to make sure that everybody's on the same page before we take those next steps. And because of our success in 2013, so 2013 was our first post-pilot program. Our pilot was in 2012 at just 7 farmers markets under 1 farmers market organization. Now at 16. They have come in at a funding level that now the City of Seattle funds 2/3 of the Seattle programming, with JP Morgan Chase continuing to be a partner and a founding funder and filling that gap. Oh my gosh. So providing that funding has been really, really key, and while they won't always be necessarily a funder, that funding is secure for now. They've set their role as a leadership in this program, whether it remains in the city and expands to the state level as well. So WSFMA our role has been primarily the leadership and market coordination, and that comes from data management to also data aggregation, which has been a huge job. That's something that we wanted to take off as a burden from the markets. So all of the data that they collect at point of sale comes through our office and then goes off to the University of Washington in an aggregate data set. And also pulling together, again, those best practices. WSFMA was the right organization at the right time, I think, primarily because of our reputation. There are 4 farmers market organizations in Seattle, again, that have been competing for years with each other and weren't necessarily all ready to come together at the table under leadership of one of them. And so WSFMA was able to come in and sort of corral everybody and get everybody at the same table, and has built this network over time. And that's made our role particularly important. And with that in mind, that partnership is important. And then Karen also mentioned, I think the Farmers Market Access Partnership is a statewide partnership that has brought in partners from all across the state, whether they're local and state agencies, local government, nonprofits, coming together around farmers markets as a source of food access. And that has received funding from a Farmers Market Promotion Program grant to pay stipends for 3 regional leads that have been doing assessment in their own regions and assessing food access points, one of which has been specifically EBT incentives. And that has brought together all of that data and our partnership with the University of Washington. We now are building a more robust statewide data set between City of Seattle, University of Washington, and WSFMA partnership.
And I just want to say, as we leave, that we put 2 info sheets out on each of the tables. One is about our partnership program, and the other one is a summary of the Fresh Bucks program from 2012. Thank you so much.